Welcome to Popular Media in the Classroom. My name is Christy Flores. I am the principal at Davis Magnet School, which is located in Newport Mesa Unified School District up in Orange County. And to introduce ourselves, like I had said, my name is Christy Flores. I'm the principal. I've been in education in Newport Mesa for the past 11 years. I've been a principal at Davis Magnet School for the past year and a half. And not only am I an educator, but I am also a nerd. And I would like to introduce my two teachers that I am up here presenting with. Summer Keller, who is also a nerd, and Danielle Lopez, who is a geek. So we ask all of you, where do you fall? And to think about this, are you a geek? Are you a nerd? Or are you somewhere in the middle? So I want to tell you a little bit about our school. Davis Magnet School is a public school in Newport Mesa. We have about 585 kindergarten through 6th grade students with additional preschool students that attend. So I want to talk to you a little bit about what we are doing at our school. We really focus on hands-on, project-based inquiry learning. And our teachers use a lot of different learning modalities to meet all of our students' needs. And how they're incorporating popular media is working in the classroom. Now, our teachers are not stuck in their classroom teaching individually. I think what makes our school so successful is that they really work well together. And they learn together and they learn from each other. And so what I'd like to invite you to do today is really become a part of our learning community and learn with us and learn from us, and we would love to learn with you as well. Now, teaching is all about borrowing and stealing from one another. And so we invite you to build upon what we talk about here and borrow and steal. Because every single one of you are passionate about something, about comics, about film, about graphic novels. And so what our teachers have done is they have utilized those tools and strategies in the academics as well as the classroom management. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Summer, who's going to talk about popular media in the academics.
We're going to do something kind of weird for a Comic-Con panel. We're going to get up. As teachers, we're like, well, we have to sit and talk. This is going to be really weird. So I use comics more as an engagement for my students. I will have to openly admit that I did not grow up as a comic book fan. I probably ignored them and had nothing to do with them until my boyfriend about 10 years ago drugged me to Comic-Con. And I was like, oh, seriously, there's a lot of people here. I don't know if this is for me. But I've been coming now, this is probably my 9th or 10th year, and I've made a niche for myself. So I see that comics are valuable, and more than just comics, we have popular media. And I'm really excited today to stand up here with a room full of people who understand that comics are valuable and that popular media is valuable. We don't have to defend to anybody else why we should be using it in our classroom. We're here instead to figure out how we can better use it in our classroom. So my first point I want to bring up is let's keep it simple. Like Christy said, we're going to steal and we're going to share. I don't expect myself or anybody else that I work with to recreate the wheel. So I do very, very simple things, like a caveman wheel, to keep comics in my classroom. I have a section in my classroom library that's labeled comics. I have an iPad app. How many of you have free comics for kids on your iPads? Comicsology? Okay, cool. It's free. You should download it. And posters that are around my classroom that aren't blatantly saying, ooh, I love comics or I love popular media, but they're kind of throughout, sprinkled around. And then I have a must-do and may-do board. So my must-do are the assignments the kids have to get done. And then when they're finished, always on my may-do board is an option to write your own comic about something that we are doing in class or something we've already learned about. The panel before us, how many of you were in the panel before us? Cool. So we talked about Common Core and the idea of this higher order thinking. And on Common Core, we have our habits of mind. And I think something that's really important is comics ask students to make inferences. Text novels do that as well, but they also have visual cues or clues to add to their background knowledge and their schema to make these connections, and the picture and the word allow them to take the text even further. Something else about comics that's really great about critical thinking is it's naturally differentiated. Depending on what your background knowledge is, depends on what you're going to get out of the comic book. You might have a reader who's at a lower level and he understands or she understands the idea of the book, but then you have a student with a completely different background. They're going to understand the book and maybe even get even more out of it. So I feel like it's a great opportunity to differentiate for my students. In Common Core, part of the standards I teach 5th grade is all about writing, and some more writing. They should be writing every single day. So as part of my daily warm-up, I have a quick write. This artwork piece here is from a gentleman named Mark Gagne. He's downstairs in the small press area, aisle 1400. And last year when I was here, I found his booth, and he has these storyboard posters, and he has books without words that are all images. And I thought, oh my gosh, that'd be a great way to get my kids writing every single morning. So I'd show them a page or two, and they would have to put their own storyline together. Something that's great about this image is there's different colors, there's different cues, there's different hints that make the students have to use their inferencing skills and their background knowledge to make their own stories. So one of my kids used the word mace. There's a knife with a mace. And some of the other kids are like, what's a mace? So it was a great time for them to teach each other vocabulary. We also got to do some time together analyzing how we read it, how we put it together to help them out. After we had several days of quick write, my students had the opportunity to type up their version of this story onto our classroom blog. So this is just a little excerpt. I don't really expect you to read it, more the fact that you can see students are using dialogue and they're using really good writing strategies. And Hartley wanted to clarify for you that there are no pronouns other than they for the main character, so don't expect to see anything creative from him, which is great because he's very creative. And then, like I said, Mark Gagne, he's downstairs in the small press, aisle 1400. He's a great resource, not only because he has these resources that he's selling, but also because he's an easy guy to talk to. Last year he said, oh, feel free to email me, I'll Skype with your kids. I'd love to talk to them about my process I go through when I'm doing my artwork, help them in any way. I did take advantage of it last year, but I'm really hoping to this year to get my kids excited and actually talk to an artist, and so that they can start making their own work. Like I said earlier, I let my kids work on comics as a may do when they're finished with all of their work. I had 2 students when I was teaching 3rd grade who took this and ran with it. They decided they wanted to finish their work early every single day so that they could put together their whole series of comic books, and I allowed it. But this comic book series is called The Adventure of Bob, or The Adventures of Bob, and this first page in their book is just the characters. We cropped it, but there's more room still on the page so they can go back, and as they meet new characters, they can add this to their character section. And I thought it was great. Their artwork might not be beautiful, but that's okay. Their stories are very amusing.
Can you tell them how many pages they ended up making?
Oh, okay, so as of right now, there's 71 pages in their comic series. Each page is a book in itself, and each page has its own title. So what they started doing is they tried to sell them, but we have a rule against making money at school. So instead, they started polling their classmates to find out who wanted what storylines. So they'd go around and ask, oh, what do you think Bob should do this time? ooh, what do you guys want to see Bob do? And so in their book, there are lots of different adventures. This one, I know it's hard to read. I just wanted you to see that they have a great concept of the sequencing. They have the panes, they have the different layers and the different levels, and this is something that I never directly taught them. This is something that they obviously got by reading comics on their own. And again, I want you to remember that these are my 3rd grade students, so they're young. Here's one that I just took out a few panes on, but Bob goes to Costco. And we've all been to Costco before, and what I love is that Costco is huge. Okay, this Costco is 2 stories. I've never been to a 2-story Costco, but I'd like to. And Bob is really excited because do you notice that the honey jars are as big as he is? So he is really excited. So these students happen to be some of my more advanced students, and they have great sense of humor. One of their uncles is here at Comic-Con, so he's like so excited. Oh my gosh, you're going to show my artwork? And then this one is another one where they polled their students, and the title of this one is Bob Dives. Give you a second to read it. What was that? Oh, yeah, well that might be funnier, but I thought Underwater Bird was good. And I love to hear the giggling because when Danielle and I were sitting and I was trying to pick which pictures I wanted to select, I kept laughing. And she was like, you're really enjoying that. And I'm like, no, the sense of humor is amazing. Like, it was very hard to pick which 4 pictures I was going to select. So this again was just, I allowed my students to have the opportunity to be creative, and they ran with it. Another thing that I really pride myself on is that I still watch Saturday morning cartoons, and I do it for school, okay? So that's part of my homework is to stay in the loop with what my kids might watch. So I find myself watching the regular show and Adventure Time. Try not to bring the regular show into the classroom because some parents don't like that sense of humor. But Dragons of Burke happens to be one of my favorite. And every time I watch this show, I find a social studies connection or a science connection. There's so much mythology in this cartoon, but one specific, we're talking about new Common Core standards and coming up as next generation science standards, and talking about engineering. So one of the episodes is that the village builds dragon perches over their house, and the perches are continuously getting hit by lightning, and the houses are catching on fire. And they obviously assume that Thor is very mad at them, and they've done something wrong, and they must please the god. In reality, the meadow is attracting the extra energy. So Hiccup has to figure out, well, how am I going to make a dragon perch out of something else? I would love to pose that challenge to my students, show them the first part of the episode, have them design and create and build this dragon perch, then have them watch the remainder of the episode. Did you do the same thing? Did you solve the problem in a different way? Great way to make that science connection for our kids. Also, Avatar, another one of my favorite shows. When I was teaching about the periodic table and the history of the periodic table and simple elements and the belief that everything was made of just 4 elements, one of my students blurted out, "Oh, like an avatar." Yes and no. So it was a great opportunity for me to teach some misconceptions, but it was also a great opportunity for me to help make that connection for students who watch Avatar or are at least familiar with it. So I was able to hook some more students into my lesson for the day. With writing comes reading, and with reading comes writing. And what I have up here is a very dull graphic, but it's a very useful image. And this was given to me, you can't really see it, it's thanks to Lisa Holman. She's one of the teachers at our school site. And this is just a quadrant to analyze our characters. So traditionally, our hero is somebody who's physically strong, as well as morally strong, who's complete opposite of our mastermind or our villain, who usually is
physically weak as well as morally weak. So I like to introduce this to my students early in the year, so that way we can refer back to it every time we read something. So we usually start with cartoons. SpongeBob happens to be a good one. The kids like to have some really good debates on where they should put people. So Danielle and I thought of some different characters, and we put them in different places. So we have that Peter Parker, it would be our underdog, where Spider-Man would be our hero, even though they are the same person. You're going to notice that Hiccup from Dragons is going to be, he's sometimes an underdog and he's sometimes a hero. In some episodes, he changes and transitions throughout the storyline. We have Dr. Doofenshmirtz from Phineas and Ferb. He's our mastermind. He's our villain. He always has an evil plan. And then our Groot, somebody who just kind of does what they're told, but doesn't think for themselves. So we have the eels, Ursula's eels from Little Mermaid. And then you're going to notice that I have Zuko in the middle. During the storyline of Avatar, he changes. So in the beginning, he's a brute. He does what his dad wants him to do. And then he himself becomes the mastermind. He wants to hunt the Avatar. So he becomes our villain. And then we learn more about his backstory, and he becomes weak, and he becomes our underdog. And then he helps Aang, and he becomes part or one of our heroes in the story. So it's really great for students to see that text is not flat, but yet all our characters and the storylines are developing and changing. So just because you're an underdog one day doesn't mean that's where you're stuck forever. So that's how I use popular media in my classroom. I'm going to pass it on over to Danielle.
I work hard to be very analytical like that, but I'm here just to tell you some ways that you can geek out your classroom and just kind of make it your own. So here we go. This is a picture of me one of my students made. I love it. Red lightsaber, and also noticed I had red in my hair at the time. I am still fairly new on Twitter. Followers or something really small. But I found a great community on there. So, and I'm starting to tweet a lot more and a lot more resources. So if you have any interest or you actually do use Twitter, here's my account and we can kind of continue the conversation. This is one way we can use it. So, talking about a little bit of the inspiration. When you are starting off and having I like to call it themed classroom, you have you. And you have to always start, what are your passions? What are some of the things you're into? Connection with the students. And the students in my classroom were coming with reading some of the books, and this is one of the books that I took a picture of one of the kids writing some notes on. Coming with tennis shoes, with t-shirts, so many cool things, like lunch pails. I was in love with having the lunch pails and backpacks my kids were coming in. Just a side note, I've been a first grade teacher for the past 5 years, so that tells you a little bit of the age group. So, here are some notes or things that I have used having a themed classroom. I have a Star Wars classroom. Again, slightly like Star Wars. It's actually an obsession, sort of. And I've used it towards my classroom management. And there's a few different things. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named Rick Morris. He has a website called View Management. We're going to have these websites at the end that you can look at, but he likes to incorporate music and cues that basically tell students what to do. I'm going to be showing a video in a moment. It's a pretty short one, but just some ways that my students were able to respond quickly to some of the sounds and stuff. Another thing is table group names. How many of you ever had sat at table 1, 2, 3, or 4? And just in your classroom, and it's like, oh great, I'm at table 1. Yeah. So, having some different names. I must say that when Christy was working, she was also a colleague of ours, I walked into her classroom and she had these amazing, like, is it Princeton, Stanford? Names. Yeah, a bunch of different university names. I was like, that's awesome. So I connected that thought to my passions and the theme that I was building up in my classroom. And then the last one, geeky job titles. I like to call my helpers droids. So we have the star droids. We have this thing, and it's a big, I'm the We even had a little writing series where we learned how to draw R2D2. I should draw pictures. And then we talked about droids are helpers. One way I can help, so things like that. So yeah, we got our printer droid, our line, sorry, line leader. Actually, it's still line leader. But then we have librarian droids. I mean, so they're geeky. I'm sure I can come up with better ones. But here is my video showing you a little bit of my classroom. Side note, we were at the end of school when a lot of these were made, so please excuse the mess or empty.
Clean up.
It means clean up. Do you have to go back to your desk or just clean up?
Get ready.
It means get ready.
Yeah, in Star Wars.
I need to make a side note that I did not create that song. I used to always have the kids, it was like a contest to make sure they were paying attention to what day it was and kind of teaching them how to read a calendar. And one of my students who was really struggling in so many different areas, so I'd always start off, let me back up, and it was always the Imperial March, so do, 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 do. So that way they're like, uh-oh, I better pay attention, it's not like doom. And then a little girl, she comes up and she's like, I have a new song. And she sang that song, and I was like, genius. So it's been 4 years now, and it was awesome. Okay. So I don't know about you, but if you are a teacher, you might be getting about as much money as I am, which is not a lot. So spending money to get all these different things can be a challenge. One thing that, if you can see in the top corner, the Join the Force of PTA, we were having a PTA contest that time for membership and stuff. But the poster right there is of Yoda using our Ducks logo. And my daughter ended up drawing it by simply using a projector, and she stuck it on the whiteboard and just sat there and traced it. And that was your first time doing it, right? Yeah. And so we just got, what was it, crayons and markers?
Yeah, we had crayons, markers, and colored pencils. So he has a unibrow and marker, and then on his forehead his wrinkles are in colored pencil, and then we shaded it in with crayon. It was really
Voila! We have an official Yoda that's there, and it still is, you might have seen it in the video as well, but you know, that cost crayons, markers, and paper. Another thing that I've done is my homework folder. Well, instead of homework, which is boring, we have Star Wars. It's much neater. And we even have, right there, we have the Star Wars crawl that kind of gives them the directions a little bit. So what I did was I was like, Star Wars fonts, and I just Googled it. This one is called Star Jedi, this particular one, but I even looked up like Doctor Who ones. Like that's the one you might have seen a little earlier with Who, like Doctor Who. So these are just some other ideas.
So, I don't know how many of you have ever seen these before, but did any of you ever get these from the 2011 Comic-Con? These were awesome. So I got a bunch of them, and I kept going, like, another one, I'm gonna get another one. Well, I'm like, okay, so now I have these, and I have to do something brilliant with them. What I ended up doing was, I'm like, okay, so now I have these, and I have to do something brilliant with them. What I ended up doing was, if I hold this up, I don't have to yell. The kids know that they're doing a great job. Can you guess what this one tells them? And I'm sitting here staring a whole other separate thing, but it's golden. And so I was able to use these free things that I got at Comic-Con, and they're just, you know, something that I don't have to yell anymore and lose my voice. Instead, I've got these awesome things that I got.
And you'll see her walking around campus with all her little ducks in a row, and she's got her little paddle up in the air to show them what they're doing. So for people who aren't quite sure, what is that? Oh, it's Danielle and her Star Wars. No big deal.
Just go. It's her.
It's Star Wars.
I don't know if any of you got these, but this is like an instant megaphone. You can draw on it, decorate it. I mean, Sharknado's pretty cool, but if it's not your thing, just take it and make it your own. So again, those were just some examples of some of the awesome swag. And then down there in the Star Wars Pavilion, I don't know if you saw, but they were giving out these down there. I think it was 29 something. I don't remember the last digit, sorry. And they're giving out ones, I think kindergarten to 6th grade, different workbooks. So, hey, use what you can get. We're thinking, we're trying to get you to now look in a different way at Comic-Con. If you're educators or you are a Lego teacher that is working in the Lego lab, whatever it is that your connection is with kids, make those two together and start looking at the stuff that you're buying. Oh, I could use that as a pointer. Here's another great pointer that I have. Making all the different sounds. So, you know, or different ways of getting things. And how can I use that in my classroom? Become part of a community. There's a lot of different communities that are here. You might get some great websites, some great resources, but start to become part of that. Because a lot of us here are obviously passionate about one thing or another. That's why we're dressed up in the costumes and wearing our geek pride, or nerd pride, sorry. And again, just attend more educational panels. I found this by going on to Star Wars, and I was like, oh, community, let's see what's there today. I was like, Star Wars in the classroom? What? So I instantly applied to become a rogue. Greatest thing. I'm Rogue 50, by the way. I'm very proud of that. So here's the website, and Summer's going to read the quote.
So it says, we spark learning and imagination by providing engaging and relevant experiences for students of all ages, inspired by the captivating characters and stories from the Star Wars universe. It is our hope that Star Wars in the classroom will become a forum for collaboration and inspiration as teachers and students from around the world share ideas for creating meaningful and entertaining learning experiences. Tom Riddle, not Voldemort, and Wes Dodgins.
They have been an amazing group of people, just again shortly taking part in it, especially via Twitter. So it's been an amazing resource, especially in just a short amount of time. We are in the process of still creating a website, but this is our website right now. It's very bare, but we've already been writing stuff to put up there. But Geekly Discourse, it's going to have resources, and one thing that is really important in education is the research behind it, and there's so many good research articles that we've come across. In fact, there's even in Scotland, I believe, an entire school of study at one of their universities. I think it was University of Dundee. Something. It was incredible, though. So they've got so many different articles. I might just even put a link up to there. And then I have some great video messages from different celebrities that I've come across, and I'm like, hey, can I videotape you telling my kids to read? And so I have some great ones up there. And again, I'm hoping that when we post something that you can go, hey, this is what we do in our classroom, or hey, this totally didn't work, or here's a different idea I saw. So we hope that you can look at that as well.
Okay, so just some resources, like I said, Mark Gagne, a really nice guy. Go introduce yourself, tell him that you heard about him here at this panel, and use him as a resource. He's got some great material. And then, like Danielle said, Rick Morris, he's from San Diego. If you guys have not used any of his materials for classroom management, please do so. Our blog, Geekly Discourse, hopefully you got it was applied on Weekly Discourse, and it's Geekly Discourse Nurturing Nerds, so that we can make all those students feel comfortable. And Star Wars in the Classroom, and then our school website where you can find all of our emails if you have specific questions for us. And this PowerPoint will be going up on our blog as as soon as we can add some notes to it, just to make it a little bit more concise for people who aren't here listening.
Wonderful to spend a Friday afternoon with all of you, and we have a few minutes for questions. So if you have any questions for myself or either of our teachers. Yes, ma'am.
What's the percentage of ELL students and?
But like in the panel in front of us, we've both taught at schools that are heavily, we had a high EL population before we came to the school that we're at now. And I think the panel before us really talked about that providing the written word with a visual helps those EL students leaps and bounds. So I feel that this should be, any principal that would question using visual art with words for EL students, I'm not quite sure how that would work. So,
Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Danielle, I'm obsessed with Harry Potter the way you're obsessed with Star Wars.
I've thought about this. Go ahead.
I have some resources
I'm
on
ready.
the blog. Yeah.
I was in first grade, and I
Kelly
had been wanting
Lopez.
to redo my classroom like Hogwarts. And I found lots of great ideas on Pinterest and stuff. But my question is, how did you get started making your classroom Star Wars? Because I can't seem to start it because I'm like, oh, it's so much and there's so much to do and
Start
it
with table
costs so
groups.
much.
Yep.
We're all so rich as teachers. So.
First thing I did was I came to my principal and I said, I'd like to do this. Do you have any thoughts on it? And I, opened it up to them. But having that conversation was probably one of the most important things. The principal at the time was excited about it. I love Star Wars too. That sounds awesome. And I talked about some of the things. One of the things I did say is I'm not really going to teach, explain a lot about Star Wars because it's such a young age. So I basically was, I'm going to start off easy with table groups. So yeah, all right.
Free.
Get rid of table 1, 2, and 3, and it's Endor, Tatooine, Hoth, Dagobah, Cloud
Yep,
City.
Slytherin, you got it.
So
Table
that is
groups,
exactly-
free, easy, done.
Yeah, or even the forest or
Yeah,
Diagon Alley, and you can have different. Oh my gosh! So
Yeah.
I really thought about that, and then even having the magic wand and stuff like that. But parents came up, and because you have so many different things, having the parent community was a little bit of a worry. But I just said it's just something that they already know and they're familiar with, and I'm just teaching it in these ways.
Look.
And did you do it slowly,
No.
first you did the table groups, and then you just did everything once?
It was because once I was after my first Comic-Con, I was I have to do this.
And she had moved to a new school too, so it was like a fresh start. So it was boom.
It was actually the year after.
Yeah, but it was that same
So I'm
general
I have
time.
a lightsaber. That's awesome because my lightsaber makes noise. So when I push things, so I'm pushing A, B. So it gets exciting. And plus, they want to come up too and hold the lightsaber. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you ever seek funding from any external sources? For example, I would be interested in using Lego in my classroom, but how would I go about asking for education funding from a big corporation like that?
Write a letter.
I would highly recommend if you haven't already taken advantage of Donors Choose.
Ooh, that's
There
even better.
are excellent grant resources, and especially with the new school year starting at donorschoose.org. Our teachers on our staff have been incredibly successful. But if you spend the time to look and research grant opportunities, there's money out there.
I think the Disney one is happening right now too.
It is. It's Disney right now, and it's more of an art focus. But Legos, you could easily write that for a visual grant. And with Donors Choose, if you're at a high EL population, you're more likely to get funded. So take advantage of it. They're looking for those schools. It's Chevron. In the fall, they just go around and blanket fund projects. So write big ones. Don't just do I want an iPad. No, you want 5, 10 iPads.
And it doesn't hurt to ask, like you had mentioned, writing letters, but I think making that personal connection with a company, parents can be such great resources. And so by networking and finding out who they work for, who they know, can really benefit your students. Question?
How do you prevent such highly specific classroom themes from alienating certain students who might not be into Star Wars or other things?
Yeah, we've had a few people like that were girls, and there's this horrible stereotype that girls can't be into Star Wars, but I I just have some posters up showing the girls. And, you know, without really saying much, yeah, I've had a few kids, I'm not really into Star Wars, but I really like your class. And that's fine. But it just becomes part of the culture, and they do like it.
Yeah, I would say there's still other things being taught. And I think that's where, like, I have not chosen a theme. I just have things sprinkled throughout. So it's maybe a happy medium. Maybe you could find, you know, half and half.
I have a lot of Doctor Who stuff in my classroom too, like the TARDIS, and then and I've had some kids that just come in and they didn't connect to that, but then as soon as they see the sonic screwdriver or the TARDIS, they love it, and they draw me pictures of those things too.
All right. Please feel free to email any one of us with specific questions. Also, I am more than happy to show you around our school. You're more than welcome to come and set up a time to come and observe these two fantastic teachers within their classrooms. So I lead monthly tours every second Friday of the month of our school at 9 o'clock, and everything is posted on our school website. So thank you so much for coming, and we hope you enjoyed it. Have a great weekend.
Yay.